What we're going to do is we have 5 panelists, which we'll let them introduce themselves and talk about their role with IT/OT convergence with their clients' projects. Then we'll ask the audience, if you'd like to ask any questions, just raise your hand, and then someone from ARC will come out with a microphone and grab your question. And what I'll do is let me start with Darren Blue, and if you could introduce yourself and talk about how you're involved with IT/OT convergence.
Sure, thank you. So hi, my name is Darren Blue. I work for the Intel Corporation. You've heard one of our manufacturing IT executives this morning talk about Intel's journey in IT/OT. I sit in our business unit where we're looking at helping companies go through this conversion and transformation, help to provide some products for that. So when I first started in this role, we went out and learned a lot from our own factories and how culturally, technology-wise, and standards-wise even, that Intel has gone through this and continues to make this transformation. So I try to take our learnings both inside of Intel as well as the companies I talk to externally to help provide tools and technologies to be able to make those transitions.
Okay, great, thanks. We'll start next with Jeremiah.
Hello, I'm Jeremiah Hanley. I'm part of an organization called Streamline Control. We help build, design, and deploy modern SCADA and IIoT solutions. In particular, it was my organization that helped Adam achieve that solution that he talked to, and just here to give some insights from an integrator perspective, and go from there.
Okay, great. Oz?
Hello, my name is Oswaldo. Everybody calls me Oz Rodriguez. I'm the head of product go-to-market strategy for Lloyd's Register. We worked with Randy on this project. We supported him all the way throughout. And what we love about that example that he gave is that you can start from, not every company is ready to do IT, OT, IIoT. They don't have the tools, they don't have the knowledge and the culture still. So we still have to take them through that maturity curve, and we always start by looking at their data, looking at their biggest gaps, the biggest problems that they have, and then we take them through that journey. And I think that use case that Randy shows exactly the capabilities that we can do.
Okay, Reese?
Hey there, my name's Reese Tyson. I am with Flexible Innovation. We were working with Rob at American Water deploying their solution, but I guess Flexible as a whole, we're a systems integrator. We do everything from the shop floor to the top floor and multiple different verticals. So love to get with customers and walk them through that process of IT/OT convergence and how they best can bring value to their company.
Thank you.
And I'm Kevin McCluskey. I'm co-director of sales engineering at Inductive Automation, and I have the pleasure of sitting with 3 of our customers here who have given different presentations as part of this. So I've worked with Rob and Todd and Adam in different various capacities, and it's good to be here.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, thank you. Dave Hake with Armis. Well, first of all, I'm really glad I hung on to the bitter end to watch this one. The 4 case studies and then also Intel represent 5 of the 16 C&I classified critical national infrastructure industries. And so this was really insightful to me to hear all 4 of you talk about the same thing in slightly different ways. Really high regulatory issues in pharma. Chevron runs 43 businesses. I couldn't name them if I tried. The pipeline thing is noteworthy because of Colonial. The water thing, of course, is top of mind as a key target. And so my question is kind of hard to make into one sentence, but I'm interested in any views on the intersection of risk-based management in general, IIoT in general, and its integration with already well-vetted OT risk management processes, and then the whole idea of cybersecurity in that wedge, because RBI can be viewed bottom up as look at expensive, important, critical pieces of equipment, or it can be, in Todd's case, refineries come first, then pipelines, then LNG plants, and you'll get around to serving the gas stations in 2028. So it can be top down in that risk assessment or bottom up. And in the middle, there's another layer that's really interesting, which is even at a refinery, it's not just one turbo machine that matters, it's what can take down the whole place. So when you add a whole new influx of devices and architectures, do you redo business impact analysis? Do you make it multidimensional like I just described? Or do you just say, well, we're only doing IIoT on less critical things, so we don't need to worry too much about cyber implications? Or do you say, nope, we're restructuring the whole attack surface, the whole business, and so does every IIoT investment require or justify the lens of cyber evaluation as a risk factor? Sorry for the long question, but I'd love any insight.
Here's how we'll manage it, is that maybe if all 9 of them can answer a piece of it or a couple of pieces of it. So what we'll do is we'll go right down the panel. If anyone wants to start first, otherwise I'll see who the first victim is.
I think he was asking Todd.
Okay.
I'll start first. So the way I like to start it is what's going to bring most value to that person. So let's say vibration monitoring. All right. So who are they paying, or what are they doing quarterly, yearly on these low criticality ones? Because the high criticality ones have full-blown Bentley Nevada vibration, that's a slam dunk. The low stuff, what are they doing? How often are they doing it? How much is it costing them? And where are they? I mean, the very lowest ones, no, we're probably not going to touch, maybe. But maybe that middle section before you get to the high value ones where they're already instrumented, how much is that costing us? How can we buy a $500 sensor to slap on there? And what's the return on investment? If we're spending $100,000 a year at one refinery to do vibration monitoring, and it only costs $50,000 to instrument that, and we get once a day numbers, that's better than once a quarter. So it starts with that spreadsheet exercise. What's the value we're going to get out of it?
Okay. Any of the other speakers want to address it? Go ahead.
I think you have to work them both together. So the fact that you start with risk doesn't mean that you don't do IIoT on them. It's the fact that you have to look into your maturity, the maturity of the company that you're working for, the maturity of the culture, right? Because IoT requires, you're moving the problem upstream, or you're moving the knowledge that is needed upstream, because now you're gathering all this data. And now somebody has to go at the other end and analyze that data, right? So that requires different skill sets, that requires a different structure to be able to analyze that data. So what you're doing with risk is, as you said, prioritizing. This is the key equipment that I need to keep running. And then from there, I believe your journey gets a little bit easier, because now you can focus on other type of equipment that you will treat, and then you can start sensorizing. But at least you have an overview of your critical equipment, and you have that under control. That's going to reduce a lot of your unscheduled downtime. So I think it's a process, right? It's not one or the other. It's how you tackle it depending on the maturity. And again, it's process, people, and technology. So you have to look at the 3 of them at the same time.
Okay. Any other volunteers?
Yep. Can we sign that guy as a presenter, by the way? He was really, come on up.
Yeah.
So.
We could make an 11th person.
Yeah, we need another, we're really load testing the stage here. So, being in the water utility, being critical infrastructure, we take that very seriously. We're the only utility you ingest, right? Quite honestly. So everything we do starts with a security, both a physical and a cybersecurity lens, right? For us, it's very much converged. So when we think about IoT or IoT, we see that, especially, we see the benefits there, like in our distribution network, but really as an overlay. And that's why, for us, convergence means leaving for a lack of better terms, leaving the traditional ICS or SCADA systems, keeping the right security controls there, right? And then bringing in that IoT and that cloud presence, but bringing it in away from the control system, right? Old smart, right? Everybody, that's a microcosm of what's possible when we expose control systems to the internet, right? So we are very very cautious, and we will always take a cyber security posture first, because quite frankly, everything we know about cyber today will change tomorrow, right? It just evolves too quickly.
Anyone else?
And I'll answer from a software vendor standpoint. So from inductive automation, we have a whole team that's dedicated to security. We have secure development training for our developers. We have a number of things that we do to ensure that the right tools are in place. And having that, we also, you heard from a few folks here that MQTT, Sparkplug B are really important pieces of their overall architecture for IIoT. Leveraging known technologies that are best of breed technologies already can help make things a lot easier to get to a point that you have that security that you need. So MQTT, Sparkplug B leverages TLS. It has access control lists that are built in. You can have client certs in addition to server certs. On the Ignition side, you have that same high level of encryption that's built into the platform. You have to have the right folks configure it, turn it on, tie it in with the rest of your infrastructure, but that can make it easier. It definitely doesn't solve all the problems. You have to, certainly all the customers that we work with, their approach is you have to take a look at it from end to end. Is each one of those pieces secured? And it was mentioned a few times, but I don't think that it was mentioned explicitly. There's a whole idea of zero trust inside cybersecurity these days. That's one of the buzzwords that's out there for a good reason, because it means taking a look at each piece of your network and saying, this network isn't necessarily secure. I could have attackers anywhere on any of these networks. Let me make sure I secure the devices and secure that communication there. I think that's been a really important evolution in the security conversation as well.
Okay, any other volunteers? Okay, any other audience questions?
I work for a electric utility here in the state of Florida, and we are on this path of IT-OT convergence. Several of you disclosed that you use Ignition for your SCADA system. We're currently using Ignition in our solar pieces of the business. I only saw on one slide, I think it was Todd's slide, he mentioned the historian. I saw you're using at least Pi in one of your historians, but I wondered if any of you guys would mind sharing what you guys are using as a historian. We're evaluating historians right at the moment. So if you are using a particular one that you don't mind sharing and telling me, maybe some top reasons why you chose that.
Okay, you want to start,
Yep,
Rob?
I'll start. So let's see, 300-ish SCADA systems. We have Pi. We have iFix, we have Wonderware, you name it, right? So at the plant level, there's every historian you can think of. But at the top level, it's Ignition, right? We historize with Ignition. We've integrated Pi into Ignition. We've integrated the iFix historian. So make an OPC connection, pull the data, bring it up, and we have been very successful using Ignition as a historian.
Okay. Todd, or anything? He knows what I use. He knows what you use. Go ahead.
Is this on?
Yeah.
Okay. Similar. We're using the Ignition historian, and we're doing that at multiple levels. So, like I presented, every single data point that exists in our system is exposed to the enterprise. So we historize there as well as at our PCN level. So when we have enterprise users that want to trend data, that data is being pulled from a historian that's sitting on the enterprise. So it's all contextualized and it's all staying in that same format, and visualization and trending is happening, is occurring with the Ignition platform. So we're not, we've evaluated a number of third-party historians, and I'm not here to disparage any of them, but for us, it just simplified things to maintain that data structure and that consistency with a common platform at multiple levels.
Okay. Any other volunteers?
I can say we do use OSI Pi at the on-prem level. But when it comes up to going to the cloud, we're a Microsoft shop. We use Microsoft Azure Data Explorer to aggregate all of our data up to there.
Do you get involved, Randy, with a historian? No. Okay. Any other audience questions? Oh, I don't know if there's anyone, give you the mic.
Hi, Amanda Blevins from VMware. As an IT vendor, I've learned a lot the last couple days. But I'm curious, what do all the OT folks need from us, VMware and other IT vendors, to learn more about how our solutions that we've provided for years or new ones apply to the problems you all are trying to solve?
Okay. Maybe we could do is we can start as a panelist and say, maybe how are you addressing that question as Intel, and then we'll go down the.
Well, I mean, this is going to be a little different slant
Yes.
because I'm not going to answer this from a manufacturing standpoint. Intel, we are already working with VMware to help provide these guys solutions in virtualization. So, that's ongoing work, obviously, that's happening. And I guess what I would say is, as we look at the cloud native technologies that exist in the data center coming down to the factory, most of it is it needs to be more deterministic, less heavyweight, be able to distribute it more. So VMware is a very close partner with Intel, and those are things that are being looked at on how that can actually help in that virtualization, which gives you higher availability, higher reliability, software failover, and those kind of things in both your data and your control systems. So I'll probably just putting a little more context in her question, and then maybe you guys
Yep.
can add upon that.
Yeah, I'd be curious from the systems integrators that are on the panel and for Ignition, how you would answer that.
I'm sorry, if you don't mind, like, we do virtualization, but we do plenty of other things, so I think your response clearly identifies my question, right? There's a lot more that we can provide from security and observability and modern applications, microsegmentation, all these things. So there's a lot out there that people in general, even IT, don't know about VMware, but clearly there's a lot that we're not communicating to you all. So I'd like to learn more about how you like to learn and how you like to collaborate.
Okay.
Yeah, so just real quick on that, as one of the IT guys on the panel, you're absolutely right? Everybody thinks of VMware as the virtualization company. But we've heavily looked at microsegmentation, SASE, right, SD-WAN from VMware. I think, but that doesn't necessarily translate to the OT side, right? Because the OT side really is, a lot of it is just scratching the surface of virtualization, right? That in and of itself is new in a lot of OT space. And I think collectively, companies like VMware and IT teams need to really bring those solutions together to the OT teams so that they really, because I can talk hyper-converge to our OT folks and it's like I have a foot growing out of my head, right? And so we have a lot of work to do together.
Mm-hmm. Yep, go ahead.
Excuse me, I'll just add a few comments on that. OT is traditional, and Ethernet is on many systems, I wouldn't say a new thing, but it's taken a while to be adopted. I still see serial systems and legacy, multi-drop communication systems. So from a VMware perspective, as an integrator, I still have clients that don't necessarily trust virtualization. It's just complicated. And I think just building that trust with your OT end users and maybe giving them assurance that there is a level of complexity, but that is mitigated with uptime and reliability. So, yeah.
Yeah, Reese or Kevin?
Yeah, I think, as some of the others have been saying, we traditionally, right, VMware and virtualization is not a huge thing. But as of recent, I would say most of the projects and clients that we've been working with have been going to that. And I think it's a matter of just feeling comfortable with that platform and understanding and seeing other examples out there of people that are implementing successful solutions with that platform, with virtualization, and getting their feet wet and seeing all the other possibilities that are out there. And I think it's a matter of time thing. That's what I would add.
And from my standpoint, we probably, just to give you a little insight into our customer base, probably about 50% of our customers who are deploying new Ignition installations that are out there are using virtualization of some sort. And if they mention VMware, the problem that you're talking about, they are thinking about, ESXi, and they're thinking about the virtualization platform that exists right there. And that's about as far as OT folks normally go into the VMware side of things. On the IT side, the OT folks are normally talking to IT folks to say, hey, can you spin this up for me? Can you get this set up and going? And it is normally the IT folks who are investing in some of these other technologies as these two things are coming together. At least that's some of what I've seen here. And I know that as folks are getting more comfortable, it's becoming more common, and we've seen that shift. We've also seen folks not really know exactly what options to choose as they're spinning up virtual systems. And there's some challenges along the way where IT folks might want to over-provision because that's what they do for almost all their servers. They might not set that latency sensitivity setting to high inside VMware because that's going to 100% provision those resources, and they don't really want to do that from the IT side. But from the OT side, that's critical. You have to have that latency sensitivity. You have to have dedicated resources if you want to dedicated performance package that you're going to get reliably going forward. And so I guess my point is I don't think most folks on the OT side are beyond the idea of even how do I get virtualization right to get to the point of investing and exploring those other services. But I think that the IT folks inside an organization absolutely do, and they try to bring that over to the OT side as they're having these conversations. So I don't have a silver bullet for you, but I think that courting the IT folks who are working with the OT folks so that they are really familiar with these is probably at least one possible good approach.
Okay. Anybody else want to, that didn't say anything, like to jump in? Okay. Any other final audience questions? Oh, right here.
Rate of change. So IT and OT have completely different rates of change, and they see the world from very different perspectives. For the panel up here, how do you reconcile a 20 or 25 year asset cycle with a 3 to 5 year asset cycle? And at the same time, OT has to start accepting a reactive nature to things. So cybersecurity is a really good example of that if they can't wait 20 years to upgrade their firewall, they can't wait 20 years to enhance their security. So how do we get both of those sets of folks and mindsets together? And which is there a right one or is there a blend?
Any volunteers for that?
Sure. Okay. I'll go for it. Yeah, it is a problem, right? And I had a little bit of it in my slide. The reality is, though, is that you remember the Ronco turkey oven? Like, remember set it and forget it? Like, we can't build OT networks anymore where you set it and forget it. Like, that's just unfortunately the pure reality of it. So we really push the cybersecurity aspect of it. Now, as a public utility, we're a capital-intense organization, right? So that cycle of replacement, that's a capital activity, right? That's not a bad thing in our line of business. We do now accelerate things like replacements of PLCs and that sort of stuff. I mean, we had PLCs in the 20-year mark, right? We've taken and rewritten all of our technology lifecycle management sort of policies. Because I hate to say it this way, the reality is whether it's IT or OT, they're both technology, right? They serve separate purposes, but both sides of the house have to sort of understand what each other's doing. And we have compressed the refresh cycle on our OT. So, IT side, 3 to 5 years, OT side, 7-ish, right? We want the asset to still be viable, but we also want it to be patchable and maintainable and secure. So hope that helps.
Okay, anybody else? Good.
I'll take a stab at this. As a part of our control system replacement project, lifecycle planning was something of a hot topic, because when we set out to replace our legacy system, we were at the very end of the life cycle of that system, and in a lot of different areas. So we were really kind of in a position we didn't want to be in. So our solution, right, wrong, or otherwise, was to add as much redundancy as we could possibly add to our OT systems, so that we are not dependent on any one particular part of that infrastructure. And a part of that is that we added a secondary control room, not a DR, not an offsite recovery, but a full stood up secondary control room for these specific assets. So in the instance of if we need to replace a host or a switch or a router or whatever at our primary facility, we can move our entire operation to the secondary facility, and that includes redundant communications paths from our communications providers as well to that secondary site. We can rip and replace whatever we want at the primary, or patch, or whatever needs to happen, and then we can go back over. And whether that takes a week or 6 months, we haven't lost any of our availability or resiliency in terms of operating our pipeline.
Anyone else? Good.
Yeah, and I'll just add a little bit to that. If you look at the IT technologies coming into the OT world now, one of the key changes here, in the past, you've got a really tight coupling of software and hardware. When those start to get split, your lifecycle management, you can use one to monitor the other, if you will, and then upgrade them independently of each other and almost on the fly, which was very difficult, obviously, with the systems of the past. And so now, not only does the solution come in, but it really comes into, how do I take the best of those both worlds and apply those learnings now that I can actually separate and then provide some monitoring capability that maybe I didn't have in the past.
Okay, anybody else?
I'll take a little more practical, because Chevron has, I don't even know how many thousands of PLCs. When I was in R&D, I made this great PLC obsolescence plan to switch PLC 5s over to control logics. Beautiful plan. But with 43 business units and umpteen PCNs per business unit, I can make the plans, but I'm not going to give them the money to do that. So what we had done, and this is my practical thing, we changed our firewalls. Instead of having ports open, layer 3 rules, I actually made the layer 7 rules to switch it to layer 7 rule based, because they're not gonna, if you don't get any added functionality, they're not gonna upgrade your PLC. So got to go with a safety thing to put different types of rules in there to help from getting hacked better, or from easier hacking. So very practical.
Anybody else? Oh, everybody wants to go to SeaWorld. Well, all I can say is thanks everybody for hanging in there. Please join me in giving the panel and the speakers a round of applause. They did a great job.